Hello there. So if you got this far in the slideshow, you've already seen this slide and you've already seen this slide. But you probably passed over them without thinking about them too much. So I want to pause for a little bit before we go on to draw your attention more closely to these two slides. So the first one here, the Declaration of Independence. Obviously, you understand that we're studying in this first unit of the course, the document, the Declaration of Independence. And as I'll do with every unit all the way through the year, I'm going to entitle every unit a study in. A study in representation, a study in equality, a study in bias. It could be anything. If I were looking at the Declaration of Independence, there's all sorts of things that I could choose this to be a focused study. And I could, for example, make it a study in independence. I could make it a study in declarations, communication. There's all sorts of things I could have chosen to focus on. But what I've decided to do is to focus on the notion of equality. That's just going to give you a little bit of a framework in which to examine the document. And the reason I chose equality is because the word equality or equal comes up over and over and over again in the Declaration of Independence in various contexts. And we're going to explore that a little bit as we go. Now, it may be that by the time you get to the end of this unit, you, in terms of your own study of the document, might have a whole different idea of what you think the main focus of that declaration is. You might have a different idea of if you were teaching the Declaration of Independence, you would make it a study in something else. And that's great. If you have a difference of opinion, that's really wonderful. Equality is certainly not the only thing that I think of. And in fact, there are other words that I could have chosen, and in fact that I feel a little more personally attached to as a study in as regards to the Declaration of Independence. But this seems to be a useful frame for introducing it to you all in the context of this unit and of the class as a whole. So we're going to be thinking about the Declaration of Independence primarily, as I say, as a study in equality. However, more importantly for you all, we're going to frame it around a particular question. And that question is this one: how does language influence who gets what, when, and how? That's our central unit question. From time to time, you'll see as we go through various activities, I'm going to center activities around smaller questions, but this is the most important, overarching, essential question for this unit. How does language influence who gets what, when, and how? And at the end of this unit, you're going to have a big assignment to do, a summative assessment. And that's going to be, in the case of this particular unit, a digital portfolio project. And that project's specific question is going to be asking you how the Declaration of Independence, the language of the Declaration of Independence, influences who gets what, when, and how. So everything we do in this entire unit, in the lead up to your final assessment in this unit, that digital portfolio project, everything we do is geared towards helping you think about how to answer the question, how does the language of the Declaration of Independence influence who gets what, when, and how? Okay? So, what I'm going to ask you to do next then, in this next activity called What's the Big Idea, for obvious reasons, I want you to answer this question of how might the question of how language influences who gets what, when, and how relate to equality. What's the relationship potentially between that specific question and this sort of big idea of this being a study in equality? How are equality and that particular question related, do you think? Okay, and you're going to answer that in your Google Doc, in the Activity 2 slot. paragraph, 150 to 200 words. It's, 10, 15 line paragraph. Not a lot. Solid little paragraph speaking to that question. Now, it doesn't matter to me what your answer is. This isn't something I'm going to grade you on in terms of the quality of whether you're right or wrong. There's no right or wrong to this answer. You're graded in terms of doing the darn assignment. If you don't do activity 2, you don't get any credit for activity 2, and you have a worse grade when it comes to the end of the unit. But this isn't something you need to worry about whether you get it right or wrong. I'm just getting you to start thinking about the big ideas of the course, so that you'll be better able to answer a big idea question when we get to the end of the course with your summative assignment with something that really is going to matter. Okay? All right. That's me for now. Get on with the question, and I will tune in with you next time. Thank you.